Hello and welcome to a new episode of New Ways of Being. My name is Raymond Posch, and for those of you who have been regular listeners, thank you. Keep spreading the word. And today I'm going to do something that's similar to what I've been doing recently. I'm going to read an article uh, or a post that Craig Hamilton wrote, but then I want to talk about what this subject tells us and what we need to pay attention to. So, this particular post was titled, How Independent Are We Really? Why We Need Each Other to Evolve on the Spiritual Path. So, let me read this. This is fairly short, and then I want to talk a while. This is what he said. As a spiritual guide and teacher, I've worked with thousands of people aspiring to realize their spiritual potential. And if I've learned anything in the process, it's that to evolve on the spiritual path, we need each other. To truly realize our highest potentials, we need to engage in transformative interactions with other people who share our aspiration to evolve. It's a simple idea, but its implications run deep. Notice how this idea strikes you, and perhaps you'll see what I mean. For instance, this notion that we can't walk the spiritual path alone may resonate with the part of you that longs for connection and support on your journey. But you might also notice that another part of you finds it difficult to swallow. In our modern world, in which independence has become almost a religion, the notion that we need other people for anything seems like heresy. Indeed, if we were to embrace such an idea, wouldn't we be giving away our power and our freedom? When we think about traditional depictions of the spiritual path, the picture that often comes to mind is also a solitary, independent journey. The lone sage on the mountaintop, the yogi alone in the cave, the hermit in a hut, the wandering pilgrim. Even if we attend church services or classes or meditation groups, most of us tend to think of our spiritual path as a private, internal, solo quest in which we are the sole determining factor of our spiritual destiny. But how independent are we really? If you've ever attended a personal growth workshop or a spiritual retreat, you've probably noticed that in an environment where everyone is focused on our higher evolutionary potentials, it's relatively easy to experience a spiritual high or to break enough or to break through to new ground within ourselves. But what happens when you come home from such an event and find yourself again surrounded by people who don't share your higher values and aspirations? For most of us, in the absence of a supportive social container for our awakening, we find ourselves quickly losing touch with the new potentials that had seemed so accessible in the retreat or workshop environment. Although we like to think of ourselves as independent, the reality is that we are social creatures. Our ability to coexist with one another depends on our willingness to abide within a matrix of shared values, assumptions, and agreements about what is real, what is important, and what is acceptable behavior. So, unless we surround ourselves with others who share our highest spiritual values and aspirations, we will almost inevitably find find ourselves fighting against a kind of invisible but powerful social gravity. pulling us back into the unlightened, uninvolved world mind we're trying to break free from. It's not impossible to generate philosophy, escape velocity on one's own, but for most of us, a sustained context of evolutionary partnership with kindred spirits becomes essential. Where and how do we begin to create such an environment? Begin by asking yourself some important questions. Of everyone I know, with whom can I truly be my highest self? Among my friends, family, and colleagues, who truly shares my deepest values and highest spiritual aspirations? Do I have any social structures in my life in which I feel free to stretch myself and my relationships beyond my and our comfort zones? To reach into new territory without being concerned that I'll rock the boat or scare others off in my efforts to awaken and evolve. If a number of people come to mind, count yourself among the fortunate, and then arrange a meeting with your newly identified evolutionary partners to begin to create a conscious container for ongoing evolutionary partnership. In that meeting, make your shared agreements and values explicit. As a starting point, I invite you to discuss with them one of the principles of evolutionary relationship I teach in my Integral Enlightenment 9-week course. And here he mentions evolutionary relationship principle number 5. We agree that the context for our relationship will be leaning into our evolutionary edges. Rather than meeting in our limitations and problems, fears and doubts, we take a stand for meeting in the expression of our highest potential. We take up the challenge of showing up and engaging from that place, stretching to manifest that potential now and explore that potential with each other. And I will add my own personal comment here. In the past year, I have learned just really how important this is. It's very easy to be on a spiritual journey alone or on a growth in consciousness or evolution of consciousness alone. And it becomes hard because we don't have other benchmarks. We don't have other people that we consider somewhat equivalent to us and that we can interact with and discuss with and balance ourselves against. So he goes on to say, if your relationship inventory does not immediately reveal a core group of potential evolutionary partners, you may need to begin searching for a new group of kindred spirits with whom you resonate at the deepest level. You can do that in your local area, and thanks to the ever-expanding power of the internet, you can also now find community online. More and more opportunities are emerging all the time for us to not only find loosely knit spiritual community, but true kindred souls whose aspiration and focus is deeply aligned with our own. Wherever your spiritual journey takes you, remember, you're not in this alone. You never will be. So seek a supportive context for your higher development. If you do, you may find your solitary spiritual journey being replaced by a rich and joyous relational spirituality, in which the fruits of the path begin to show up immediately as love, trust, and shared inspiration with your newfound partners in evolution. So let me build on what that blog post laid out. So he's talking about the importance of, well, let me back up. So in recent episodes, I've been talking about, and particularly reading about, evolution of consciousness and the need to understand that you're on a spiritual path, or maybe more importantly, an evolutionary path. Evolution is very important. It's not that you just get to some level of thinking about things and then staying in that. No, the nature of the universe is that it is always expanding and evolving, and we need to think about ourselves as creatures who expand and evolve in consciousness. And, or we could say in spirit, but I would say that spirit is another word for consciousness. Um, so I think this is very important, and I've learned firsthand how true that is, because I realized I came to a point, I was in a high learning mode. I've been in a high learning mode for the last 2 years, or three, really. And I came to realize I really need a community to interact with, to talk about everything that I've been learning and experiencing, and not just talk about it conceptually. I found that it's a matter of experiencing life more fully and deeply and wisely. And to do that, it helps to interact with other people. So I want to talk about this a bit more and expand on what I'm suggesting here. And you've heard me talk about becoming more spiritual, and that was especially true further in the past when I had my old podcast called Our Spiritual Life. More recently, I've talked, for the last 3 years, I've talked about uh, raising our consciousness, or higher consciousness, moving to a higher consciousness, or to a higher vibration or frequency or energy level. Sometimes that those are equated. Um, and what I've learned, though, is that what is really more true is to become more aware. Becoming more aware, when I say become more conscious or raising our consciousness, I really realize now it is to become more aware. That means aware to a more focused extent, uh, and more of the time. Becoming more aware is key, absolutely key. When we talk about higher consciousness, or we talk about God or divinity as expressions of a higher consciousness, what I've learned is that higher consciousness, that God is pure awareness. Like if you, I listen to Deepak Chopra's his programs and uh, offerings that he creates about awakening. Every single time he's talking about always come back to pure awareness. Rest in the ground of pure awareness. And I learned this from the council back in 2023, that mankind, or at least a portion of mankind, has been going through a process of transformation. And that's what spiritual growth has been about. It's been about transforming from um, from a more limited perspective to a higher perspective, a wider, bigger, higher, more expanded perspective, and less limited. I believe that's true. We need to be focusing on consciousness. And as I've been thinking and talking about consciousness over the last several years, I can define consciousness in a number of different ways, all of which are useful. But ultimately, I always come to the point. Well, the simplest, cleanest way is to use the word awareness and maybe use it instead of consciousness. Higher consciousness is higher awareness, becoming more aware of ourselves, more aware of life, more aware of our perspectives, our potential. Um, and and I think that's very true. Now, a lot of you probably come from backgrounds where you have learned about meditation and probably meditate on some type of regular or irregular basis. And you may move very deeply into meditation or meditative states. Um, and and that's good. And meditation tends to be a kind of a baseline to talk about spirituality or consciousness. But here's something I have really come to realize. That's good. It is good, but there is a problem with meditation. And that problem is it's coming. Okay. To most people, if I ask you why you meditate, you might say, well, it helps me quiet my mind and get into a more peaceful and relaxed and maybe even empowered place, a more relaxed state of being. And that's good. And that's absolutely one of the things that meditation is very good for. Now, most meditation works by focusing our awareness on something. And the most common that I hear all the time, and for a very good reason, to focus first on our breath. Just focus on our breathing, the inhale and the exhale. And perhaps focus on slowing the breathing down, allowing it to get deeper, to become more regulated. And that's good. And one of the big things that we are doing when we do that, especially if we focus on our breath and use the principle that's now been known for the last several years, at least, probably longer than that, to have your exhale be longer than the inhale. So if you inhale, I typically inhale over a slow count of 4, and then I exhale for a slow count of 6. And when you do that, you help regulate and strengthen the vagus nerve. And you strengthen and kind of reset your nervous system when you do that. So that's another very good thing that happens with meditation when you do that. Okay, now the problem with meditation is it comes from, I would say, an old perspective, or maybe the perspective that doing that in a structured way helps us quiet the mind. And it's primarily been focused on quieting the mind. But if you've ever studied what Eckhart Tolle teaches, and I think he's absolutely right, He talks about the mind or thinking versus awareness or presence. Presence is, particularly from his teachings, has become another word for awareness. And presence, that word, he originally used it to mean present moment awareness. The power of now focused on the present moment, how important it is to be in the present instead of thinking about things in the past or thinking about things that you have to plan and work out or worries that you have in the future. When you live in the now, your life becomes much, much more relaxed and empowered and focused and present. You become present to what is really happening in your life. And that's a very key thing. It's not just, that's a good idea. No, do it and you will find it begins to change everything. When you shift into presence, awareness, um, it does all those things I mentioned. Um, it helps you to actually live in that state of a more regulated nervous system, but that is really being more true to yourself and your true nature. So it's really it's accomplishing something deeper than than what you might think about. The thing about awareness that is often overlooked is that awareness is not binary. It's not you either are aware or you're not. It's very much how aware are you? How much of okay, so I think it is very true. Oh, and you've heard me say, actually, over a lot of episodes, that what we're really talking about here is the need to shift our consciousness from separation and ego mind. And ego mind is based in mental programming. It is based in excessive thinking for most people, not just thinking, but excessive thinking for most people. And it's based in the belief in separation. And you've heard me say over a lot of episodes, that's the big problem in the world, is the belief in separation and the consciousness of separation and excessive thinking. And the most powerful thing that we can do is to shift to awareness and unity instead. Now, I've talked a lot about all the reasons why. When we shift to awareness, we become more aware of ourself and everything around us and what we are experiencing right now in the present moment. So we become more aware of our thoughts as those pop up. We become more aware of our feelings and our emotions. But even beyond our emotions are the feelings, for example, in our body. Are we feeling stressed, tense? Um, so the thing about awareness that I've learned is that uh, you can go ever more deeply in awareness. And as you go more deeply into awareness, you become more aware of what you are experiencing, more aware of the present moment that is happening. And it's what we call a present moment is kind of like maybe a snapshot is word, but it's not totally one instant that I'm getting to. It is a moment. Let's say a moment is kind of a bundle of several seconds and a bundle of experiences. Um, it is a certain flow of life that is happening in that short little time. Um, and as we become more aware, we become more aware of the larger flow that is part of, that we are part of. And we get a better picture of what is happening, a better sense in all of our senses. And, and so presence, when we talk about presence, it's not binary either. It's not you're either present or not present. You're either less present or more present, just like you're less aware or more aware. So when you're thinking all the time, you're out of the state of awareness. You are not paying attention. You are busy thinking with your thinking machine, your computer that's comparing things and analyzing, and you're not being aware of what is happening in your life right now or in the larger context. And you're not um, not as tuned in to your deeper reality as you need to be. So when you are thinking, and thinking is, you've heard me say this, thinking should be a tool that you use to help you think about certain experiences or think about things or do some planning. It's a tool that's very necessary. I'm not saying that thinking is not something, or the mind is something you want to get rid of. Yes, you need it, but excessive thinking is a problem because it keeps you out of the state of awareness, of truly being conscious in the world, in yourself, and in your life. Now, you are, as a person, are here, I've learned, for the purpose to create a life that you would love, that you would desire, to create the experiences that you desire. And so you have to have a kind of an awareness that you think about of, what are experiences that I like and what are experiences that I don't like. What do I want more of in my life? I want more love. I want more feeling of being of value. I want more abundance of good things. And when you really think about it, everyone says, "Oh, I want more money." And when you really stop and think about it, though, what you really want is what money gives you. It helps you. Yes, it helps you pay your bills, and the whole world is based on money. And so we actually have an excessive focus on money as a result. But if you stop and think about value in your life instead, that gives you a whole different perspective. And so when you want abundance, it's not just abundance of money. You want abundance of good things in your life, experiences in your life that make you feel good about yourself. So fun and laughter and joy and good relationships with others is just a wonderful thing. That's the kind of abundance you really want. And so awareness is very important. And Awareness, I've learned, is something that you can go ever deeper into. Or I could say uh, that you want your awareness to deepen and also to widen. You want to have a wider, higher perspective. And so it's something you want to deepen and widen. Um, and learning to be more present or aware is a process of deepening and widening, or I could say a practice of, it tends to be something you have to practice in that deepening and widening. So it's not just something I'm, okay, now I'm aware. No, you can be more aware of even that. And what you find when you go deeper into being that kind of more aware or widened is there's an opening up. It's all within yourself. It's all inner work. And what are you going into? Well, I've talked about this as well many, many, many times. I talk about there is one consciousness of the universe. And more recently, I've talked about that science has discovered that consciousness or awareness is fundamental in the universe. I talk about what is fundamental in the universe is consciousness, unity, and evolution. Those are fundamental to the very nature of the universe. And we are instantiations of one consciousness. Or a word that's used is that we are individuations of consciousness. Or sometimes I say, I'm one consciousness individualized as a particular individual physical being. But my essence is one consciousness. I'm never separate from one consciousness. I'm always a part of it, just like a wave on the ocean. That's probably the most common analogy that's used. I'm an individuation of the one consciousness of the universe. So are you. If we put it into divine terms, one consciousness is another way of saying God, or God is, when we say God, we are referring to one consciousness. We're a part of that. We're like a wave on the ocean of one consciousness. And we're never separate from it, even though we, in our immediate frame of reference, let's say, we can see we are this wave, we're this individual being, but we know if we know this, we know deep down we are part of the one whole, the one consciousness. And so when I talk about deepening in awareness, so let's say, I'm going to use the phrase pure awareness instead of one consciousness. They mean the same thing, but it puts the focus on awareness. God is pure awareness. Divinity is pure awareness. Infinite intelligence is pure awareness. Whatever you want to call it. Spirit is pure awareness. My essence is pure awareness. And I have manifested into physical beingness, into physical individual form as an individual human being, I am that one consciousness, that pure awareness in the form of one human being, but I'm really pure awareness. So when I shift my awareness ever deeper in awareness, I am becoming more and more into the beingness of the ocean of pure awareness. And I'm tapping into its power and its knowingness and its love and its creative power. Anything that you would use as attributes to describe God are attributes of source consciousness or pure awareness. And they are ultimately attributes that you can experience in yourself. And when we embody those attributes, that is kind of, I use the word beingness. We are expanding our being to be more fully present, more empowered, more embodying the pure awareness of the whole universe. I hope these, this is language where, and this is true of spiritual teachers and consciousness teachers, the words we use point to something else. Words are conceptual, and I'm not talking about ultimately concepts. I want to help you experience what I'm talking about. I want you to experience yourself as pure awareness. I had the experience recently of suddenly clicking in to knowing that I am God here on earth as this person, and I have the name Raymond Posch, but that's just a label. I am pure awareness experiencing myself as an individual human being. And I look around and I see, or I know, that there are 8 billion or more other gods here on earth too. Think about yourself that way. It's very powerful. It changes your perspective when you realize that we are each divine, and every other person that you see, even if they are doing something that you think is despicable, we are all individuations of God. Now, most human beings on earth do not know that that is true, and they've not learned how to make that shift from the limited human being to God on earth. So that's when I talk about evolving in consciousness, that's what I'm talking about. Shifting from separation, being in separation and ego mind, and being then shifting to a much more powerful and creative and much more godlike state of awareness and unity. Uh, it is, it's like going from night to day. It is an awakening from night to day. Being based in ego mind, excessive thinking, has you totally disconnected from the essence of who you are. But when you shift to awareness and unity and learn to move into awareness and unity ever more deeply, they are not binary. You can become more aware and more unified, and even more aware and more unified than that. And as you move ever more deeply into your divinity, into your godlike nature, into your God nature, it is a very powerful thing, and it will change the world if we can help people do that. So let me come back to, I've probably gone way over, I've totally lost track of time. Um, so when I talk about evolution of consciousness, I'm talking about that kind of shift and to ever more deepen it, become more so, more aware, more unified. Um, so unity, just like awareness, is a deepening also. It's a spectrum. And practicing to make that shift, you have to practice being more aware and to be more in unity than you have been. And so it's a process of you go from most people right now are, and most spiritual people, somewhat awakened people, are probably 10 or 20% aware, uh, meaning aware 10 or 20% of the time. And the other time, 80 to 90%, you're thinking. So becoming practice, you have to practice staying in awareness and unity. And so you have to keep coming back from, oh, I'm off thinking again. I'm stuck in this, being upset about something, and I need to shift back into awareness and unity. And so it's always coming back. And the more that you practice it, it will become more and more a habit for you, and you will do it more and more of the time. And you can eventually be aware and in unity most of the time. It then becomes your frame of reference. You're always starting from awareness and unity, or if you're off thinking about something, kind of working on a problem, developing a plan, and then coming back to awareness and unity, you do it more and more of the time. So practicing that it is a practice. And what I've learned is that there's great benefit, just like Craig Hamilton said back in 2020 when he wrote that blog post. It is good to have a community to associate with and to spend time with. So that an ideal might be to actually live in a physical community where you're all evolved beings. You're awake, you're aware, you're committed to unity. That would be wonderful. But that's probably going to take a long time to happen. But you can find online communities that practice this, and like I belong to a community called Imaginal Souls, and we meet one day, have one meeting a week. We typically meet for somewhere between an hour and an hour and a half. It tends to be closer to an hour and a half. And we attune each other to being in aware presence and to be focused on unity with each other as part of the field of awareness. We use that term a lot. We are the field of awareness. And but there are quite a few that are around now. And in the book I'm writing, I have an appendix that lists, I've lost track, but it's more than 50 organizations, many of which are like small communities or and are organized to act as community that meets on a regular basis. Some have a much higher purpose and produce events together and have may not always have a total feel of a community. Um, so some are more so communities than others. But I will be publishing that at some point. And if you want to know of some, email me and I will let you know. There are groups that get together that practice heart coherence. Heart, if you're familiar with heart math, where you regulate your heart brain coherence. Uh, you can even practice doing that with worldwide groups, global coherence. And that's a very good thing. There are many different types of groups you can join. So I will have to publish that on my website. So I will make a note to do that. All right. So think about that. Think about yourself in terms of awareness and unity, wanting to shift more into that because it's a more true, I talk about aligning with the universe because right now we're totally out of alignment with the universe. The universe is based, and science didn't know this up until the last 10 years or less, actually, um, that the universe is based in consciousness and unity and evolution. And so the whole world is organized around separation and mental thinking. And so we've created a world based on that, and it doesn't look too good. Separation creates fear. It is fear-based. And so our whole world expresses fear-based thinking, fear-based activity, fear-based living. And that's what we want to change. And so know that we will begin to shift the world towards awareness and unity. I'm totally committed to doing my part. I've worked with this wonderful group of people to create a book. I interviewed 19 other people, and those interviews are published as chapters that uh, recorded recordings, transcripts have to really be edited a lot to come through to be really clearly understood and an enjoyable read. Well, that's what I've done in this book. It's Called to Something Greater. And don't know for sure when it's going to get published, but it will, absolutely will, because the world needs it so much. And more people are beginning to see the importance of the evolution of consciousness. Look for a community to interact with. One of those is called Hola Movement. There's another called SINE Network. And there are just a whole bunch of others. There's Unity Earth. So email me and I will be happy to share more information to point you to. You have a great day and a great life.